All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition, episode 11 of the Disney Co. in the Know podcast. And tonight, I am joined by Disney Co. in the Know contributors Hannah.
Hey, y'all.
And Jacob.
Hello.
And Stephen.
Hello.
And Elizabeth.
Hi.
And before we begin, I want to say that the Disney Co. in the Know podcast is sponsored by 407 and Beyond Vacation Company, Disney and Universal experts that help plan and book your family's vacation. So all you have to do is show up, have fun, and create family memories. And check out Disney Co. in the Know Harry Potter show discussing everything Harry Potter, from books and movies to Universal Orlando and Warner Brothers Studio. Currently, the team is taking a chapter-by-chapter approach of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, analyzing plot points, characters, ties to movies, and Universal Orlando. Check us out on YouTube to see more. All right, everyone, I am looking forward to tonight's discussion. We're going to cover the news for this week for Disney and Universal, covering things such as cruise line cancellations and park closings and reopenings. And then at the end of the show, we are going to discuss what we are watching on Disney Plus. And so to kick us off here, Elizabeth, why don't you go ahead and give us the first news story of the week?
Sure. So as we know, the entire United States right now is most of the states are under a shelter in place, and Florida has announced that they are trying to reopen the state, and they came out with some guidelines. The guidelines were really specific to other counties in the state, and they really didn't talk about Orange County much. However, what is noted is that the openings for the other counties is a 3-phase opening, and a lot of those, if we look at how it's going to open, it's going to progress very slowly, and it's going to allow for social distancing. Disney would not be able to reopen with that. So by the end of this week, they should be talking with the governor, the mayor, all of the state officials to be able to decide what is going on with Disney specifically. So we're still kind of waiting to see what's going on there. I have read some stuff. The park hours are currently off of the My Disney Experience till the 23rd of May. So we do see that. And so we're still just kind of piecing together things. And so hopefully we should know by tomorrow, Friday, and to kind of see where we're going to be going with the reopening of Disney at this point.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of articles and news stories coming out of the governor's statements on the phased opening of theme parks. I put up a story on Facebook just yesterday about how the Orange County Task Force had laid out some guidelines and recommendations for reopenings down there in Central Florida. And they talked about this phased approach with phase 1 coming first, obviously, followed by phase 2. And in phase 1, parks could open up to 50% capacity. And in phase 2, they could open up to 75% capacity. You know, they were required to wipe down the attractions, provide hand sanitizing devices to guests. Employees would have to have their temperature checked at the door before entering work. But it looks like with the governor's statements here about this reopening here next week, that with the guidelines that was put forth about the restaurants and gatherings of 10 or more, it seems like Disney wouldn't even be able to, or Universal, participate in this phase 1 to begin with. So I definitely don't see theme parks being open here as things are opening up in Orlando.
Yep. So it's a little disappointing, I guess, at this point to see that. And then just like how we've been doing, every day, every week, just waiting to see what comes forth, and just keeping positive to hopefully get back into the parks. But as Bruce always says, we want to make sure that everyone is staying healthy and safe, and we don't want to rush it more than we have to. We miss it, but we don't want to get other sick. So
Right. And I would say, a decent gauge might be, let's wait and see when restaurants can be at more full capacity. I know that the phase one still excluded movie theaters and bars from being open, and barber shops and beauty salons. And so if those aren't going to be a part of phase one, theme parks are certainly not going to be a part of phase one. So,
and kind of to talk on that point just a bit, I have been reading a lot where there are a lot of companies waiting for Disney to open and kind of see, like, they are very dependent on Disney. Like Southwest just came out and said how dependent they are, on the travel to Walt Disney World, to the Orlando area. So it will be interesting, to kind of see the domino effect that will take place, because I know a lot of people, because that is such a mass gathering, probably the biggest in the United States that we have, and they really are going to, lead the way of how do we open if there's social distancing parameters still in place.
yeah, all of us here on tonight's show have flown into Orlando International so many times, and such a busy airport. But I did see the CEO of Southwest comment, and I thought, well, how easy is it to say, like, oh, Disney should reopen for the airline business, because the liability or the onerous task to reopen a theme park's on Disney, not Southwest. So, but the airlines coming in and out of MCO there in Orlando are very, very reliant on Disney and Universal guests and family vacations. So it does make sense a little bit. So does anyone have anything to chime in on this article, on this news? No?
I just think it'll be interesting to see, if they open up 50% capacity, getting all those employees back that were furloughed. Will they even open up one park at a time or several parks? And, that could be a slow process as well, even if they are opening up which parks are available. If they'll pick and choose what kind of shows, indoor, outdoor shows and things like that, maybe they hold off on. So even within opening up, it may be very limited what's available at the parks.
Yeah, and if they're opening up at a capacity of some sort, also, it'll be really interesting to see, is it going to be like 50% capacity as far as number of people, but only Florida residents can make up that 50% capacity? Are they going to limit it to, like, not people coming from certain areas that have higher percentages and numbers of positive tested cases for COVID? It'll be really interesting to see the guidelines that they set when they do finally decide to run with it and open.
I think those are all really good points, and hopefully they are thinking of these points as well, because I'm like, these are really good points. And hopefully, like I said, Disney is thinking of all of it, and I'm sure they are, but it makes sense to stagger it. And I really like the one park idea, like maybe offering that. That could really be interesting for family vacations, but I guess, again, just the waiting game. We'll wait and see.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off of what Steven said about the furloughed workers and stuff. That's a great point, because as far as I'm aware, the fall college program was canceled. And I think that those students go down in August. And,
they actually start in June.
Oh, is it June through August or September?
It will be June through December, typically.
Okay.
The new program is, yeah.
So the entire fall. So that means, starting here this summer and going all the way through the holidays, Disney won't have that temporary help. And the college program makes up such a significant amount of their workforce that if they canceled that June through December, and not to mention the significance of the college program to the pavilions and World Showcase and the international programs and everything like that. So, I would fully expect, as of today, it's Thursday, April 30th, and this very well could change by May 1st. But right now, it just seems like when Disney and Universal open, it's not going to be in the same capacity as right before it was closing. All right. We're not going to have nighttime shows and fireworks, probably because of the mass gatherings. Indoor rides could be an issue. It seems like parades might not start off right away. And so when they do open, it will be in a different capacity. So
It's depressing though when we lay it out like that.
well, yeah, but it's a
It's
phased
a start.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. It's a phased opening, and it's a start. And I don't know, especially since they had the furlough workers and with all of the health precautionary measures that they're going to have to take, I don't think they could just go from 0 to 100% anyways. And so, this makes sense, and it'll allow them to kind of fine tune the procedures that they're going to take for reopening. So, all right. I think we got a full discussion out of that news segment, so that was good. So let's move on over to the next one, a little bit more lighthearted. And so, Jake, tell us about what you have this week.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, May 4th is Star Wars Day. We've got we've already heard some news about some stuff coming to Disney Plus for that. We're going to have a new series behind the scenes of The Mandalorian. We're going to have the final episode of Star Wars The Clone Wars, and now we're going to get Rise of Skywalker released on Disney Plus coming May 4th, so right around the corner, so everyone can get their opportunity to rewatch it and all that good stuff, go back and catch up, and we've got the complete saga now, so very, very exciting.
I really am excited about this. I think I saw that it's like 2 months early coming to Disney Plus, and Disney, I guess, didn't really necessarily have to give us all of these releases early, like Onward and Rise of Skywalker. And I have been waiting for it to be released since I saw it in theaters last. And so I'm really looking forward to it being available. And now the entire saga, as Jake says, is available.
Yeah, I'm excited for this too. I think it's going to be a good one to go back and rewatch, because it wrapped everything up. There was a lot of stuff going on. I think it'll be a really good one to go back and check out multiple times. So definitely looking forward to watching it once it's out.
Yeah, and so Jake, I feel a little bit obligated. I can see a Jar Jar Binks right behind your left shoulder. Tell us about that. You a big Jar Jar fan?
Not necessarily. Big Episode 1 fan. That is a piggy bank, actually.
Okay.
Back in 1999. And I thought it was funny. It's a bank, and it's Jar Jar Binks. So it was like a Jar Jar bank. Jar Jar Banks.
Oh, gosh.
It was funny when I was 5 years old.
That's funny. Well, it looks good. I just saw that as you were talking about Star Wars, and thought I had to ask if Jar Jar was your favorite. So
I have
a lot of Star Wars stuff back there.
I have a quick question as far as the release onto Disney Plus. Does anyone know if the bonus footage is going to be released along with the movie onto Disney Plus? I know when they made the release onto digital, they released a whole bunch of behind the scenes content, and I personally have been waiting for the movie to come to Disney Plus to watch it again, also, Bruce, like you. But I would really like to see that bonus footage. Does anyone know if that's going to be available?
I don't know, but sorry, Jake, go ahead.
I was just going to say I haven't heard anything, so go ahead. I think you have more to say than I did.
No, I was just going to say with a lot of their movies that I do have like on DVD and such, they don't put that footage on Disney Plus. Like I've never seen that on there. So has anyone else ever seen bonus footage from Disney movies on there?
I'm wondering if they might take like a Mandalorian approach and release it separately.
Yeah.
As another thing to release down the road, but also another Star Wars kind of thing to release down the road and make it in 2 different pieces for us.
Maybe on May the 6th.
Yeah.
Isn't that it?
I know.
I made that.
Some of the TV shows that they've done, like the High School Musical TV series that they did, they released a whole, like they did with The Mandalorian, extra series going over behind the scenes footage, talking with the cast members. So I could definitely see them doing something like that with The Rise of Skywalker, especially since they have so much footage that was supposedly fantastic, lots of great photos and interviews with the actors. And so I was just hoping maybe they were releasing it.
It's smart on Disney's part, though, to Steven's point, to release it separately, just to get people, intrigued back into it again, and it gives something to watch since we are still sheltered in place.
Yeah, always nice to have more content and stuff like that on the streaming platform too. It's always good to be able to provide stuff to keep people busy and everything. So that's cool.
Agreed.
Absolutely. There ought to be about enough for about 24 straight viewing hours of just pure Star Wars movies on there.
I was going to ask, does anyone know if you do every single Star Wars, how many hours that is? I mean, that has to be like a day's worth.
It's got to be close to 24.
I think most of them are around 2 hours. So if you include Rogue One and Solo in there, then yeah, it's
wow.
about 24.
All right, so
you can have a good May the 4th there.
Anybody up for a 407 live stream podcast of all 9 movies?
The marathon, if we can make it.
Yeah, we'll live stream that from our Disney Co and the No accounts and see if we can make it. But I'll leave that to you guys. So, all right, very good. Let's move on to our next news story. Hannah, what do you have for us this week?
Back along kind of the same lines as Elizabeth, a little bit less happy than Jacob's story. Due to COVID, we are still having cancellations with the Disney Cruise Line. So they have released cancellations for 3 of their cruise lines. The Disney Magic line, which runs through the Mediterranean, they have canceled all cruise dates through July 2nd. So if you had a cruise between now and July 2nd, that cruise is no longer running. The Disney Dream, which runs in the Bahamas, and then Disney Fantasy line, which runs in the Caribbean, are both canceled through June 18th. So those ones are not canceled out quite as late as the Mediterranean one, but they have canceled dates through June 18th. And they are not scheduling any new dates until at least July 24th. So if you have a cruise, I think between the 18th or 2nd and 24th, as of now, they seem to still be planning to run those cruises, but they're not selling new tickets to any cruises until the 24th and after at this point of July.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing these cancellations for the cruise line creep further and further into the summer, which I would imagine that the theme parks are back before the cruise line industry is. Just because of space and social distancing. So
absolutely.
I will take this opportunity though for a shameless plug to say, if you have had your cruise line canceled or you're looking to rebook your family's vacation, to reach out to us at www.407vacations.com or to email me at bruce@407vacations.com. Because I know a lot of people, had a lot of spring and summer plans on cruise lines and down in Orlando. So we're happy to help with your rebooking. So even if you did not book with us originally, so make sure to check us out on the web or send me an email. So
yeah, the cruise line, I definitely, when all this started kind of bubbling up and becoming, really prominent in our lives, thinking of Disney, not only, do you think of the parks and the mass gatherings, but my first thought also was the Disney Cruise Line. And if you've ever been on a cruise, you are very much on top of every single person. So it'll be really interesting to see how they open up and to see, kind of their phasing into the cruises as well. So
yeah, I think it will be extremely interesting to see how they plan to take some of those precautions for the cruises. I know that Disney is super thorough with everything that they do and that they are obviously very concerned about everyone's safety, and that's going to be their top priority. But because there were quite a few cruises that were kind of not Disney cruises, but just other cruises that were kind of at the forefront of the situation, I think it'll be really interesting to see the guidelines for safety that they come out with, whether it will be limiting numbers or limiting where you can go on the ship based on where your room is, that kind of thing. I think it'll be really interesting to see, and I know that Disney's going to do their best to give everyone the best experience while keeping them safe once things open back up.
Absolutely. Does anyone have anything else to say on this news story before we move over to Stephen? So this is Stephen's inaugural time on the Thursday night Disney Co and the No podcast. And not only that, it's his inaugural news story. And so, Stephen, I don't know if you know this or not, but the very first time that you give a news story on our podcast, you have to do it in your best James Earl Jones voice. And so we look forward to your story.
Well, you're gonna be really embarrassed when I actually.
What do you have,
All right.
Stephen?
So now I guess over to me for the sports. So in the sporting world, basically there's been a lot of buzz for the NBA in the 2019-2020 season, and just kind of all sorts of ideas being thrown out there of how they could complete this, whether it be just kind of having these teams go straight to a playoff format, or taking records and going straight into next season. But one of the interesting ideas being thrown out there is having the NBA all come to one location, and being housed in one city and being able to play the rest of the season or some of these games in a quarantine type setting. And recently in a piece on Yahoo Sports, Walt Disney World was brought up as one of the locations among Las Vegas, Atlantic City, and the Bahamas as being one of these locations that could house such an event. And so taking the entire league and moving them to one location limits their exposure to this virus, in a similar endeavor to the NBA summer leagues that are housed in Las Vegas. And so Disney World provides housing, it provides athletic facilities, and it's able to contain NBA personnel to a small area. And so some interesting things I've found to consider in Disney's favor are that the ESPN Wide World of Sports complex offers about 12 basketball courts, and it's right down the road from two resorts, the Art of Animation Resort and Pop Century, and those would total about 4,900 available rooms. And for Disney property itself, they own about 39 square miles of private property, so they would be a little bit easier for them to shut down streets and things like that, movement, transportation, compared to a big public city like Las Vegas or Atlantic City and so forth. So these particular facilities house college basketball tournaments each year. So they're broadcast ready, and they are meant for these kind of situations. So one big thing is that the governor of Florida has declared that professional sports are essential services. So while they will remain closed to the general public, Florida itself would be a good place legally to house this kind of entertainment, as well as Disney providing all of those resources. So Disney is being thrown out there in this article as a potential good fit. So while we don't have any word from the NBA or Disney about moving forward with this kind of project, a case is definitely being made that Disney would be an ideal location.
So
no, go ahead, Bruce.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask Stephen, do you think, I know this was just floated out there as an idea. I don't know if it was floated out there at random. It was just, this guy's thought, or was it like kind of sending out the message just to kind of get some immediate feedback to see what people's thoughts were before they move forward with it? But how likely do you think it is that this actually happens?
Well, the idea has been thrown out there by a commentator for Yahoo Sports, but this Keith Smith was an employee for Walt Disney World for, I believe, about 20 years. So I think the idea is just kind of being thrown out there. It's not necessarily being advertised by Disney or suggested by the NBA, but it does have a lot of the essential pieces foundation-wise to be able to hold such an event. And if you look at the NBA and Disney's relationship, it's been fairly good and fairly healthy these last few years. Disney owns ESPN, ABC, so a lot of the NBA games are broadcasted on Disney networks. So I feel like that would be a good fit. It would be very compatible. And if I think the NBA decides to move forward with the idea of finishing the season, I think they got to look at Disney as being maybe top 2 or 3 location to play.
If the NBA were to go forward with the idea of finishing up the season, how long do you guys think they would plan on running the rest of the season, because then that's something that Disney would have to factor into its reopening as well. Because if the entire NBA is housed down there, they can't open the parks up and the hotels up to guests.
Yeah, I would say that they probably could still open up the parks and run this simultaneously. But to your point, and I think Stephen had mentioned it, that Disney would have the potential and the capacity to actually house some of these NBA teams and their staffs over at Pop Century Resort, Art of Animation, which is nearby, Wide World of Sports. Disney's Riviera Resort was even thrown out. And so, Hannah, to your point, I don't know how that would affect guests being able to book rooms there, because I don't know if they would just how many rooms that they would actually need. But to your point, if they're housing all of the teams or a majority of the teams, and there's transportation to and from the ESPN Wide World of Sports Center or complex, I think that would potentially be a little bit disruptive to their reopening plans if they do, or if they are simultaneous.
Sure. Go ahead, Jake.
As far as I know, I'm fairly certain the season was quite close to finishing up the regular season, at least, which means playoffs were right around the corner before the virus hit and everything. So my guess would be once they can get things restarted back up, it would probably make a lot of sense in this type of scenario to just go straight to the playoffs, because then you'd only have 16 teams instead of twice that number. So that would make the logistics of it a lot easier in terms of rooming and using courts and stuff like that. So that would make things go a little more smoothly there. And also, as far as the length of time it would be if they go straight to the playoffs, that would shorten the length of time that they would need to get all this sorted out before the parks could potentially reopen.
That's what I was thinking too, if they would. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, to kind of piggyback off of, the idea if they go straight to the playoffs, you have fewer teams. You're also going to have to factor in some time, almost, getting these guys a little bit back in shape with some type of mini camp or training or something along the lines before you throw them right into playoff games. So I don't know how long.
I've been following LeBron James on Instagram, and he's still doing his workouts.
I'm sure he's still very much in shape.
Well, this is certainly a potential solution, and I don't want to stay on this point too much longer about the NBA season, but I do know a lot of European football seasons are being called off, and I just saw the French league just declare that the rest of their season is not going to be played. And I know the English league has yet to make a decision. So it seems like seasons are being called off. And so this would certainly be a step in a direction to try to continue, one of them.
Yeah. As a counterpoint, I think Major League Baseball has announced they will have a season this year. So things are going both ways. But
that's good.
And I was just going to say, I'm very disappointed about the NCAA basketball tournament being canceled as well. So it made me wonder, if the NBA plays, and I think it's a really good idea if they would start at at the postseason playoffs, but then maybe moving into the NCAA basketball tournament potentially as well. But I think that's a hopeful wish.
Yeah, I don't see that coming back.
That ship has sailed, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Players have already moved on and declared for the draft and stuff like that.
Well, Stephen, thank you very much for the news article or the news this week. Congratulations on your first news segment. So it's good to have you on the podcast. And that's probably the longest that we've talked sports here on Disney County now. So
how was my James Earl Jones impression?
It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. So
I'll keep working on
it. So now that we're done talking about the news for this week, let's wrap up the show talking about what we're watching on Disney Plus. We are still in quarantine. We're still at home. So we got to bring some of that Disney magic home to us. And so I want to go around, the Zoom meeting here and discuss what it is that we're watching on Disney Plus. And so Elizabeth, I'll start with you.
Okay, so I'm watching a show and I would say a movie. So my show right now, as you know, Bruce and I finished up the entire Marvel series. Absolutely loved it. And it broke my heart when it ended. And I felt like a piece of me, I still needed to keep watching Marvel. So I watched some of the little shorts, but I just recently started watching Agent Carter because I do love Captain America and I have really enjoyed it so far. I love the error and I love where it picks up and how it picks up right after, right after Steve goes into the ice. And it's really fun seeing a woman character lead and be a lead in this capacity. So it's been really fun to watch that. And the movie that I'm currently watching is Stargirl, which is, I've finished it. And it was actually a book and it was just really lighthearted, really positive. I think it's like a really good movie to watch right now because she comes into the town and the town's a little like sad and she just brings a lot of positivity and a ray of sunshine. And I think it kind of works with currently what's going on and the current situation. And so it's just really lighthearted. And I thought Disney did a really good job with the music in it and the casting. And I read the book many years ago, but it's stuck to the book pretty close. So I always like when that happens. I'm an avid reader. So that was good. But yeah, those are the two shows I'm watching right now.
All right, very good.
The Stargirl movie, I'm not a huge America's Got Talent fan, but I believe that the main girl who plays Stargirl was one of the winners or finalists a couple years ago.
She was a finalist.
She played a ukulele and
she's phenomenal and she plays the ukulele in the show and her voice is so good and it's really fun, lighthearted. Yeah.
Right. Very good, very good. Steven, what are you watching?
I am watching currently the new season of the Star Wars The Clone Wars.
Okay.
And so currently, I believe they've done 10 out of 12 episodes. And I think it's started off pretty decent. And then if you've ever watched a lot of it's following different clones throughout the war. And then it kind of got slowed down a little bit in the middle episodes, maybe 5, 6, 7, with some side character story. But then the last 2 episodes, been a 2-part story. It's had a lot of Ahsoka Tano, a lot of Darth Maul. Probably one of the better, if not best, kind of animated lightsaber exchanges that we've seen. One of the most interesting parts I've found about it is the last episode or 2 actually takes place during the events of episode 3. So there's some kind of side story going along. You kind of see Anakin and Obi-Wan get pulled away to go on a mission to save the Chancellor, which is how episode 3 in Star Wars starts out. And we kind of see Obi-Wan get pulled away to go chase Grievous. And so while that story is unfolding, we kind of see the side story of Ahsoka Tano and Darth Maul play out in this war on Mandalore. And so I'm really excited for the next 2 episodes and kind of see how they wrap up Darth Maul's story and where those 2 main characters go next.
Well, very good. And Steven, is that considered canon?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Has anyone else seen this?
I have not seen it. When they announced like very long ago that they were bringing Darth Maul back, and obviously, I mean, he's back now. Like that just for me seemed like I was not super thrilled with that decision. I mean, I don't really know what to say. Like, he literally got cut in half. Pretty sure that's over. Steven, do you feel like they've done an okay job bringing him back in the way that they have?
I will
Is it
say,
worth watching?
Being a big fan of episode 1, you feel like he's just a really cool character and kind of embodies what you imagine when you think of the Sith. So the idea of giving him more story, I think, is really cool to see out because I think he's a very interesting character. choosing to have him come back and be alive instead of maybe giving him more of an origin story, you just kind of live with as a, kind of a Disney decision. But once he's back and you accept he's back, it is fun to see him interact with Obi-Wan Kenobi again, and Anakin Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano, and you kind of feel that prequel trilogy feel, especially as his character goes over into Star Wars Rebels, and kind of has his ending there. So since he's back, I enjoy it. I love his character, and it really just adds more to this background storyline besides just the movies that we see. So I'm pleased since he's back that we get to see a lot of them.
Steven, all I could think is when you and Hannah were saying that he's back, all I heard was like, he's back, the Dark Lord, he's back from Harry Potter. So everything comes back to Harry Potter for me in some form or fashion. So that's all I can think about. So
Steven, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I've only watched the main movie, so is this an animated version?
Yes.
You said?
Yep.
Oh, okay. So, but it involves the movies?
So there's a couple. So one of the storylines is just Star Wars: The Clone Wars, and it's basically a cartoon series about the prequel trilogy characters going literally through the Clone Wars. But then there's other stories like the Rebels and so forth, and I believe there's Star Wars Resistance, I think, out for the sequel trilogy. So yes, it's a cartoon series. It's largely probably geared for entertaining children. Lots of side stories about droid characters. We get to see some of our Jedi, some of the universe's scum kind of going around, and bounty hunters and so forth. So, but I enjoy seeing some of the lead story characters from the prequel trilogy era. So, it's enjoyable to follow and just kind of see what happens next in that whole big universe.
Yeah, I was just wondering.
All right, cool. Let's go ahead and move on. Hannah, what do you watch on Disney Plus?
Frozen 2. I just love it so much.
Still.
I mean, check out my article on it if you want to know how much I love it. I wrote it back in December. 100% still applies 4 months later. It's just so magical, and every time I watch it, I love it more. And I might get a lot of flack for this, but I might like it more than the original. I just think the storyline's super interesting. The music at first, I was like, okay. And then the more I saw it and the more I listened to it, the more I love it and love it and love it. And I just love it.
I'm on a lot of like the Disney Facebook like groups. Also join our group, Disney Co in the Know. But some of them that I'm on, they just do not like Frozen 2 whatsoever. Like Frozen, the first one is so original, like how can it compete with it? And the first time I saw Frozen 2, I think I liked it immediately more than the first one. Which I know I'll catch a lot of flack for that too.
Well,
but
Hannah Elizabeth, all I can say is when it comes to some Disney fans and their critique of some of the movies, that some things never change. Okay.
Hey, there you go. I guess those people are just gonna have to show themselves.
But I think it has better one-liners in it, and I think it has better scenes than Frozen 1 personally.
Yeah.
And I'm just not saying it because I think it's better. Like I feel like I have valid reasons as to why.
I think that the shift in Olaf's humor also
Yes.
because in the first one it's a lot more slapsticky, and then in this one it's like having an existential crisis. And I'm like, wow, same.
We all can relate.
It's just so fun, and I think it's fun getting to see Kristoff have this emotional side, and he's got his power ballad in the woods, and seeing the sisters really like show their strength of their relationship in this one. You get a taste of it at the end of the first one, and getting to see them live that out and have an adventure together and be worried about each other and protecting each other and finding like the root of their family and their love for each other while each growing into who they're meant to be, I think is a really important message and just very special to see.
Very well said, Hannah.
Yeah, I feel like I do need to just state, though, that that's no offense. My comment was no offense to any Disney fans, that Some Things Never Change is a song in Frozen 2. So I just want to make sure everyone got that. Um, but and Frozen 2, I think, has the funniest scene from a Frozen movie when Olaf is given the history of the girls, and he turns around and goes, talks about their parents, and he goes, "They're dead." That doesn't sound funny, but watch it. That scene is gold.
The scene is so funny, and the captain of the Royal Guard's reactions to Olaf just like amplify it even more. It's great. I highly recommend go and watch it on Disney Plus. Join me. It's a good one.
It's good.
Yes. All right, Jake, what are you watching?
Yeah, so similar vein to Stephen here, but I'm actually watching Star Wars Rebels. I have not caught up on the newest season of the Clone Wars yet, but I've never been the biggest fan of the Clone Wars personally. Some of the decisions they made early on in the show left a bad taste in my mouth. So I've had a love-hate relationship with it. But I've never had the chance to really sit down and watch through Rebels before, so I am going to start that now. I've already seen a few episodes, and it's interesting. I'm really looking forward to some of the stuff that is going to be coming. In particular, I'm really looking forward to the character of Grand Admiral Thrawn. He is a character that is from some of the old books published back in the 90s, and they're reworking him for the new canon and stuff, and he's one of my favorite characters, so I'm really looking forward to how he's going to fit into everything. Really excited about that. And also one of the things that I think is appealing about Rebels is it really fills in that gap between episodes 3 and 4. Like it's a bridge between the prequel and original trilogies, and so I'm really excited to see how that's going to play out. I like a lot of the characters and stuff so far. It does seem a little more kid friendly or kid oriented than the Clone Wars was, but again, we'll see how that plays out.
I do have to say that I do plan on checking out everything that you guys suggested, but we have these in-depth animated Star Wars analysis. We're quoting lines from Frozen 2. We have hit an all-time, I think, nerd alert on this episode 11. So that might
and
have
Marvel was brought up.
Yeah. I have a quick question as far as Rebels goes. I have never seen Rebels, and I don't know when, like, chronologically it came out compared to Rogue One. Do you, Jacob, know, or do you suspect, will there be any crossover between characters? Was it released way before Rogue One was even a thing? Like, do you know timeline for that?
So Rebels came out, I'm fairly certain before Rogue One did. I don't think there's any crossover. None of the Rogue One characters make their way into Rebels. I believe there was a scene in Rogue One where you can see one or two of the one or two of the Rebels characters in the background, just as like a little Easter egg. But I believe that is the extent of their overlap. The stories don't really touch or anything.
Okay.
But I might be wrong. Oh, we'll see. I'll have to give an
Keep
update
us posted.
further into it and everything.
Yeah, I believe one of the main characters, Hera, I believe her name and her ship are mentioned before they go to battle in Rogue One.
Everyone's getting choked up about Rebels.
I know.
It is a good series. It is worth checking out.
Yeah, that I think Hera and the Ghost are mentioned, and I think you can see Chopper real quickly in one of the scenes on Yavin 4. So,
all right, all words that I do not know what those mean. So, all right, what I'm watching on Disney Plus is I'm actually rewatching the Disney Imagineering series. It's a 6-part series that I'm on my 3rd pass through right now. So that's one thing about me. I watch a series and then I go back and I rewatch it. So before I move on to new content, the Disney Imagineering series, if you have not seen it yet, it is a story from the beginnings of the Disney company and Disneyland all the way through the expansion into parks abroad internationally. the Disney Cruise Line, all of the technology and the rides that they use and everything else. And you really get to see and hear firsthand from some of the Imagineers and employees who have worked at Disney, and kind of go through the highlights of the company and the theme parks. And especially since we cannot be there currently and in the near future, I keep watching the Imagineering story. I think it's such a well done documentary and show, and the presentation is great, and it kind of gives me that Disney theme park fix. So the next though series I'm going to watch after this is One Disney Day, which was a book that was released that follows certain employees. These episodes are shorter than the Imagineering story episodes, and but there are more of them, and they cover, as I said, one employee going to work at Disney each day. And so I'm really looking forward to starting that. And then I'm sure that after I finish that series, I'm going to have to purchase the book. So that's just kind of how it goes for me. I'm a sucker for that type of merchandise. So have you guys seen either of those shows?
I've seen the One Disney Day. I absolutely love that. Being a former cast member, it was really fun to see other aspects of the operation. And I like how they highlight things that you don't think of, jobs per se that go on at Disney. I really enjoyed when they followed a person who does a lot of the gardening and prepares, they prepare for Christmas flowers like a year in advance, and just watching all of that kind of unravel. I enjoyed that. The Imagineering story I have seen with you a few times. It's hard for me to watch though right now because it makes me miss the park so much. They do a phenomenal job with it. They absolutely do a phenomenal job with it. And I enjoy seeing how honest they are in it. Because I think sometimes as a large corporation, you don't want to be honest sometimes. And I think they do a really good job at that, and kind of showing every aspect that has happened within the company, which is great. So they're both really good, shows right now to get you in the Disney parks mindset. So
yeah, and I want to reiterate what Elizabeth just said there. This is not a 6-part promo for Disney. They talk about the hardships that they've had. They talk about the mistakes that they've made, what they would like to have done over. They talk about, the difficulties with Disney's California Adventure out in California, some of the difficulties they had abroad and adapting to new cultures. And so it is a really good examination inside Disney theme parks and the company. And I had seen people suggest that it was kind of a promo for the Disney parks. It's not one of those hour shows that have been released before where it highlights the parks. This is a documentary into, the trials that they've had expanding the parks and bringing new technologies and new experiences. So it is.
And sitting down with, previous CEOs. And I think it's like where that honesty comes from, them sitting down and really being like talking about, it's a huge corporation to be able to run it. And you think you have this wonderful idea and then it totally flops. Like hearing someone who, and when you look at them, you think, oh my gosh, they're so successful. But like hearing that, quote unquote failure, but how they became successful with it. And it gives you a good feeling inside to see that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Anything on that, guys?
I've not seen them, but I'm definitely really interested in checking out the Imagineering one. I think it seems super cool. I love getting to see kind of like the backstory of it and hearing the behind the scenes things, how Disney is the magic way that it is. So gotta check that out for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely not just one of my favorite shows on Disney Plus right now, but it's one of my favorite shows available. So I highly suggest checking it out. So but I think that does it for tonight's show, guys. And unless anyone has anything to add. No? All right. Well, I will ask our viewers and our listeners to subscribe to our channel, Disney Co. in the Know. Put a comment in the comment section if you're watching on YouTube. Let us know what you're watching on Disney Plus. If you have any theme park reopening projections, let us know. We're taking in everyone's opinion and trying to piece this thing together to see, take a good guess on when the parks are going to reopen. Follow us on Facebook at 407 and Beyond Vacation Company and join in on the discussion on our Facebook group, Disney Co. in the Know. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook. And does anyone have anything left? I know I just asked that, but last pass at it.
Nope.
No? All right. So guys, appreciate the good show, and I will see you guys next time. Stay safe in quarantine, and I'll see you in episode 12. All right. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.